Hello, 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 everyone. It's Charmaine Hammond, and I am so excited to be here talking about sponsorship. I love this topic. I love this topic so much because I've seen sponsorship absolutely transform people's businesses. And I can attest to the fact that it's transformed my business over the last number of years. I see so many opportunities for people to get sponsorship and work in collaboration differently. And today we get to talk about why that is so important for you to know as much as you can about sponsorship and how it can help you advance your business. This webinar today is hosted by the Global Influence Summit. If you want to find out about the Global Influence Summit, or the GIS as you might hear me say, go to globalinfluencesummit.com. I'm so delighted to be a host of this event alongside my other co-hosts, Teresa DeGrobois, who I know many of you know and love Teresa, and she might even be listening right now, and Joseph Ranseth, who I know so many of you know and have worked with Joseph as well. So today's topic, we're going to be going back and forth between me speaking live to you and some PowerPoints lives, and then back to me live. You should all be hearing my voice, and if you're not, maybe you could let me know. Becky says hi, Charmaine. So I'm assuming that Becky can hear me. Hi, Becky. Great to have you join us from Phoenix. So let's have everyone here just introduce themselves, where you're from, and if you really want to, share what the weather's like. I'll just share what it's like here in California. I'm looking out the window, sunny, surfy, and beautiful in California. And Becky says, same here, yeah, in Phoenix. So share where you're from, where you're listening from, how the weather is today. And I just wanted to orientate you to the chat box on the right-hand side of the screen. You'll see my eyes looking over there quite a bit because I want to make sure that I'm addressing as many questions as I can. Often this topic generates a lot of questions, which is really exciting. And I will promise you that if we can't get to all the questions today, here's what I'll do. We will create a Q&A document. We'll put it in a PDF, send it to you so that all of you will have access to all of the questions that were answered offline. And I'll also put some of the questions and answers on the Facebook event page for this very webinar so that you can follow them there as well. So Vancouver, oh, it's balmy. Is it raining there, Katerina? And we've got Barbara in Arizona, Virginia, mid-40s. And we've got Karen from Calgary, warm and sunny. Wow, no snow in Calgary? That's incredible. Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. The other piece I want to let you know is we have a handout. You'll see it right at the top of the Q&A, or actually it's down at the bottom now in the feed. There's a handout, a worksheet that I would love for you to go down, go to the website and download that. We are going to be working from the worksheet, but even if you print it later, that will be fine. I'm going to actually fill in my worksheet with a lot of the tips that we talk about today and put it out on the Facebook event page as a document so that you can all access that and the notes. All right, I think we are ready to dive in. We've got people listening from all over. Welcome, welcome. So why do I love talking about sponsorship? Because I have seen sponsorship and this type of collaboration change people's lives, really. It has transformed businesses, but I think the best part of sponsorship is that it's making such an incredible difference in the world. It can help speakers, authors, coaches, entrepreneurs, people just like all of you here today, get their message, get your message out to the world in a way bigger way, so that you can impact more lives, touch more lives, and make a really, really positive difference on the world. Now, as we dive in today, I'm going to move over to screen share. So just give me a moment here. Now, you should all be seeing the slides on your screen. So let's talk about increasing your profits with the magic of sponsorships. Little bit about me, and then I'm going to dive into my story. I've been working in the area of sponsorship for many, many years, actually. And I've had lots of learning. Some was painful. Like all of you, we've had these painful learning experiences, and some was really quite profound for me. Why are we doing this workshop, and are you in the right place for this webinar? Here's the deal. If you want to learn what sponsorship is, because for many of you, this is a new topic. If you'd like to know why or how sponsorship could help your business, your project, your launch, even some of the philanthropy projects and or organizations that you're involved with, you're in the right place. If you'd like to know more about what to do, I understand sponsorship. I know what it is, but I don't know how to get started. You are so in the right place. And of course, if you really want to advance 2017 in your business by including sponsorship, you are definitely in the right place. So a little bit about my story. Okay. I have an interesting career background, just like many of you do. I started my first 10 years of my professional life in jail. And I quickly say, on the outside of the bars. I should have the screen share showing my face so you can see I'm laughing and smiling. I was a correctional officer, which is very interesting because as a child, I was painfully shy. I was so uncomfortable in group conversations and group settings. I didn't like gym class because I never got picked for gym. And it's so interesting that we fast forward so many years forward, and here I am working as a professional speaker where I'm in front of large audiences. I'm with strangers all the time and I love it. And of course, I'm building relationships with sponsors. After the correctional work that I did in adult and young offender facilities, I left the correctional setting and actually used those skills that I had learned around collaboration and communication and conflict resolution, and I became a mediator. I went back to school, got a master's degree, became a mediator, and that's when I opened up my business. In 1997, we're celebrating 20 years. I'm doing the woot woot happy dance here, but you can't see me, you can only see the slides. And that's really exciting for me because we've transformed, just like you listening who have had businesses for a while, you've transformed your business, changed your brand. We've done all that. The one piece that has probably been the best decision I ever made in my company, was to bring in sponsorship as a new way of doing business. Prior to opening my business and after being a correctional officer, I had a few other interesting careers that you'll hear about in a moment. Somewhere along the line, I became an author. And I say somewhere along the line because I know some of you are with me on this, the accidental authors. I hadn't planned on writing a book, but I did write a book. And it all started through my incredible dog, Toby. And this is where you all say to yourself, "Oh, he's so cute." On the screen, you can see On Toby's Terms, which was my first book. It was published after my first story in Chicken Soup for the Soul. And this is Toby Sr., a dog who absolutely changed my life in ways that you can't imagine. He taught me not to be a perfectionist. He taught me about the importance of being present and how we need to communicate clearly, and most importantly, how to show up as your best version of you, and how when you do that, your world changes. And he was the star of several books, On Toby's Terms, and then 2 children's books. And then a new dog came into our life several years after Toby Sr. passed away. And this little guy, Toby Jr., with the biggest feet I've ever seen on a dog. Look at him sitting in this in this vehicle. This was Toby on one of our kindness tours. And we had the opportunity, he's now 5, we've had the opportunity to have many events with this incredible dog. And some of them we're going to talk about today because they have allowed me to find sponsorship. Here's how sponsorship started. I was actually getting ready to launch my On Toby's Terms book. And some of you are with me on this. You've had to launch a book and you didn't really know what you were doing. And it's like that for many of us with sponsorship. We simply don't know what we don't know. And that's what I really want to clarify for you today, is getting you past what you don't know so that you can step into action. But as I was planning the On Toby's Terms book release, the cost of doing a big launch, which was my dream, was becoming really expensive and actually very time consuming. It was losing its joy factor. And you all know what that's like. And that's when I was watching Oprah one day and I saw that everything she had was sponsored. And I thought, wow, this is kind of cool. And then I had this thought, a really quick thought that said, well, geez, if Oprah can do it, I wonder if Charmaine Hammond can. And on went our adventure to build sponsorship. And at the time the book was launched, we had 40 sponsors. And here's the really exciting part. Zero, I'm holding my hand up like you can still all see me, zero cold calls. 40 sponsors for this book launch and zero cold calls. Here's tip number one that you can write on your worksheet. All of them, all of those 40 sponsors were people that I knew and currently did business with. So this webinar is for you if you want to understand sponsorship, know what's available, why sponsors would want to meet you, learn how and where sponsorship fits into your whole business model, your projects, your events. If you want to impact more people in a bigger way and get your message to more people around the globe. And these are a few things we're going to be talking about. Why sponsors are wanting to meet you and learn about your project, how to build relationships with them, and what you'll need to do to get started the minute that this webinar is done. Let's talk about the first bullet here, why sponsors are waiting to meet you. Let me tell you a quick story. There are people who work in big companies, for banks, insurance companies. Think about the brands. Just look around the room that you're sitting in right now. Do you see any brands? I see 3M brands. I'm just scanning. I see Sony. I see Apple. I see Dell. I see print products. I see Starbucks. There's all kinds of brands that we use every day in our business and in our personal life. And inside those brands, there are people who are responsible for giving away sponsorship dollars. And they're really stressed out. They're under a lot of pressure because they have to ensure that the dollars that are designated for sponsorship for their particular company are wisely invested, that it advances the business and meets some of the marketing goals. And I know this because I actually used to be that person. I actually was that person responsible for giving away sponsorship. So are you ready to get into this? I'm assuming you're all saying, heck yes, let's go, let's rock and roll. So what is sponsorship? We have to make sure we're on the same page about this word that you're going to hear over and over again. Here's one way to look at sponsorship. Corporate sponsorship is really a marketing relationship where a sponsor, a business, a brand, is willing to pay to be associated with different types of events, projects, launches, campaigns, products, and philanthropy projects. The good news is there has been an increase, and it continues to increase, the amount of sponsorship that's available. What really gets me excited is that there's also an increase in the number of small companies and medium-sized companies who are now finding the value of working with people just like you on sponsorship. In fact, one of the events that I'm hosting, I mentioned the Global Influence Summit, which is in Florida in February. What a good place to be if you're in Canada or snowy parts of the US in February in Florida. But at that event, some of the folks that I've been working with on their sponsorship, they've been able to secure a lot of sponsorship from small and medium-sized companies right in their own community. And you'll get to meet people like that to learn how they've been able to do this. So it's not just the big brands anymore that have sponsorship dollars. The smaller businesses are realizing there is so much value in collaborating with people like you and I to help advance their business. So sponsorship usually comes in the form of cash or in kind. And you can write this down on your worksheet. You've got your worksheet there, and we're going to talk a little bit about what the difference is between those. So cash and in kind. Let me pull us off screen share for a moment and bring my face back on. We're going to do a bit of an exercise here. Oh, slides are stuck. They were, I was moving them, but they were stuck. Okay, well, you missed some really exciting slides. I don't know why they weren't moving. They were on my end. So I will try and fix that as we go forward. Or you know what? We'll just go without the slides. How's that? Now, on your handout, you've got a little chart that has two columns. One that says nothing, because you're going to write in the words in kind. So if you want to do that. And then on the other column, and if you don't have the handout, you can just simply write it on a piece of paper. On the other side, you're going to write cash. So you've got in-kind and cash. What we're going to do is, first of all, talk about in-kind sponsorship. This is where you really need to start for sponsorship. So we understand that sponsorship is a marketing activity. The cool thing is that these people that work in the area of sponsorship, like I was one of those people who are investing their dollars wisely, they have to pick the right kind of projects to support. And we'll talk about what that looks like. But first, I want to test your math skills. Who has a guess on how much sponsorship? And nobody Google it. Don't be racing to your cell phone to Google it. How much sponsorship do you think is out there right now in North America in terms of dollars? So let's hear a few guesses. Let's hear a few guesses. I've just taken off the slides, so you shouldn't be seeing slides anymore. Let's see. Is everyone still seeing slides? Millions. Virginia, love that answer. More than millions. Take a guess. What else? Who's got another guess? Millions, or, come on, you can do it. Let's hear a couple more guesses on what you think is available through corporate sponsorship right now. Billions, yes, yes, Joe and Becky, billions of dollars available in sponsorship in North America, and it's looking for a home. It's looking for a project or a product or a launch or an event to be associated with. And there's all different reports that say how much is available, but I'm going to deal with a conservative one that says about $20 billion. That's a lot of sponsorship dollars. Now, when I mentioned that there's people in the professions that are looking for projects to invest in, I was one of those people. I've actually sat on all four sides of the sponsorship table. Bring it on. We can help them, Joanne. Joe Dibley says, you got it. You can help sponsors. That is one of the big messages I want you to take away today, that you can help sponsors with their marketing goals, because sponsorship is a marketing relationship. It's not a donation. It's not a handout. If you were all live with me in a workshop, I would get you to turn to your neighbor and say, you can help sponsors. It's not a handout. They are investing in your project to advance marketing in their company. So by investing in your project, your event, your launch, your book, you are helping them advance some of their marketing goals. Perhaps you're getting them in front of an audience they've never got in front of before. Maybe you're allowing products to be tested or sampled. Maybe you are bringing in an audience that they have been connected to, but they need to try some different engagement activities. Maybe they have a new logo or a brand that the company wants people to associate their name with this new logo. So there's many ways that you can help them. And what's really important to know is that with sponsorship, there is a need to have ROI. Who knows what ROI is? I know most of you do. Return on investment. So they really need to see a return on investment. I've sat on all four sides of the sponsorship table. In my first career, I worked as a nonprofit executive director, and my job was to find money, grants, donations, fundraising, and sponsorship. And then I actually left that job and went to work for government. And that's where I started to get gray hair. I was that sponsor decision maker, making decisions on how the funding and the sponsorship dollars would be doled out, what projects we would support. And there was a lot of pressure on me to pick the right projects that would meet our marketing goals and our service delivery goals. And I was dealing with about $2.5 million at that time. And you would think that giving out that kind of money would be a woohoo. It came with a lot of stress and a lot of worry, simply because of the responsibility to produce results. Then I opened my own business, as you heard, and it was my goal to start getting sponsorship. And also, when you're a business owner, you also give people sponsorship. So sometimes you're in the position of being a sponsor. With my business, not only was I securing and still am securing sponsorship for myself, I'm also doing that for the clients that I work with. So helping them get sponsorship for their projects, their launches, and their campaigns, and even the philanthropy projects that are so dear to their heart. So I'm gonna rock and roll here into some deep content. I'm gonna let you know that I'm gonna keep looking onto the chat box for questions, wanting to make sure that everyone is seeing my face now and not the slides. I'm not sure why we had slides that weren't progressing, but I figure you'd probably rather look at me than the same slide for the next 45 minutes. So is everyone seeing my face? Can I see a heck yes, or we see you're smiling, or you can comment on how gorgeous I am today. Okay, and we're going to get rolling. All right, now let's do a little bit of an exercise. Yes, 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 you bet. Perfect. Okay, on your worksheet, in-kind sponsorship. Thank you, Terry. Let's talk about in-kind sponsorship. This is where you've got to start, and here's why. If you're going to approach a big brand like Staples or Target or Waves Coffee or Tim Hortons or Starbucks or a bank or an insurance company, and you've never worked with them before and you don't have a relationship with them, they are going to look for other ways to feel supported and secured in sponsoring you. And one of the ways that we can provide them that reassurance is to have a very, very good track record with other sponsors. So how we do that is to build in-kind sponsorships. Now, just to give you a real quick list, you can write this on your chart, a real quick list of some of the many things I have had sponsored in kind, which means I didn't have to pay for it. They were provided to me in kind. Pretty much every kind of printing you can think of, from t-shirts to banners to standing banners, to photocopying, to portfolios, to business cards. I'm just looking around here because I've got all kinds of sponsored stuff on my desk, handout packages, postcards, and the list goes on. Also, my clothing. How many of you would like to have clothing sponsored for you? I had my clothing sponsor for a number of years. Jewelry, healthcare products, health products, beauty products, photocopying. I think I said that already. My AV, event venue. I know there's lots of you on here today that host events or are going to be hosting events. So venue space, refreshments, all of the things that you need to make your event a rocking success. I've had that sponsored. My travel, even my massages. Yes. Getting massaged twice a month, and I didn't have to pay for that because it was sponsored by one of our 40 sponsors. Isn't that cool? When we went to other sponsors, they noticed very quickly that we had a track record working with other sponsors, and every single one of them commented on it. So it actually, for them, felt like it was reducing the risk for them to come onto our projects, to come onto your projects if you're doing this, because there were other sponsors involved. Now, some of the other things that you can get sponsored are things like your travel, technology needs, your cell phone. I mean, the list goes on. So what I would like you to do is just take 30 seconds or so. You're going to complete this as homework afterwards. But if you can just take about 30 seconds and write down a few other things that you would love to have sponsored, and feel free to actually type it in the chat box, and I'll take those ideas and put them onto this chart for you if you have ideas. What else would you like to have sponsored? Or another way to ask that question is, if you had certain things sponsored and you didn't have to pay for them, how would this transform your event, your tour, your projects? So I'll just give you some time to write. Ah, beautiful. Joe says gifts for attendees. Fantastic. That can really add up. I do a lot of work with event organizers, and some of the speakers that are speaking at the Global Influence Summit, like Harrison Klein and Marbeth Dunn and Colin Sprague, who I know many of you know as well, Teresa DeGrobar and Joseph. They often comment, because they go to events all the time as well. They see firsthand from all the different events that they attend as a speaker, all the different costs associated. And I was talking to one of my colleagues one day, who speaks at a lot of events in the corporate world. And she was telling me that she sat on an event planning committee and she was naming off how much money they spend just on recognition for the speakers, the exhibitors, and the attendees. So Joe, bang on with that. I mean, that gets really expensive. IT support, great idea. Plants, flowers, books to give away at events, swag, absolutely. And nice swag, right? Not the crummy swag that everyone throws in the garbage. You want nice swag that people are going to take. Accommodations, airline tickets, hotels, decor at the events, credit card processing fees. Very cool. You got me thinking about that, Norma. These are all examples of what you can get sponsored. And I know this because I've been able to do that time and time again for me and also for my clients. So let's talk about how you can actually help a sponsor, because this is a shift for people. A lot of times people are so worried about asking for a handout and they feel awkward. They feel weird in that dance of asking for something to support their project, that the ask never happens. Here's the thing. Let's just think of an event for a moment. When you are in a sponsorship relationship, you're helping the sponsor and they're, of course, helping you. Imagine being able to introduce that sponsor to a new audience, to be able to allow that sponsor to build a relationship with the people at the event, for them to talk about their business in a really meaningful, non-salesy way. For people who had never heard about that particular brand before, now they understand it better and they go out and talk to other people. We are helping sponsors, and that's a very important mind shift, because if you walk into a conversation with a sponsor with the mindset of I'm asking for a handout, first of all, it's going to water down how important your mission is. It will really water that down. It'll be hard for a sponsor to get excited about it if you feel like you're asking for a handout, and you're probably not going to ask for what the request is really worth. And that's so important. So all of you to know, you have so much value to sponsors. You can actually help them achieve things that they can't achieve through other marketing mechanisms. So through social media, videos, pamphlets, brochures, media, they might not be able to achieve their marketing goals through those means as powerfully as they could if you were helping them. Isn't that cool? That's why I love sponsorship. Now, what I'd also like you to do is on your handout, you have a handout that looks like this. If you've printed it down, there's a little chart. How could sponsorship help your business and projects? You can write this in the chat box or in the handout. I'd love to hear from you how sponsorship would help you. We've heard some of the things that you would love to have sponsored. How would it help you? How would it help the people that you serve? So I'll give you a few moments to just write some ideas down, and then we'll check in on the chat box. How would it help you? How would it help the people that you serve? Beautiful. Great answers coming in. I'll give you, keep typing, but I'm going to read off the ones that have come in. It would give you more credibility. Absolutely, Virginia. Sponsorship can help you so much with building your credibility, and not just your own brand and business credibility, but the credibility of people that you partner with, the people that you serve, and of course your sponsors. So it really is reciprocal. It would, let's see here. Boy, the comments are coming in so fast, I can't keep up. It would, and Katerina says, it would help me reach more women on a personal level everywhere. Yes, Katerina, if you don't know, Katerina's doing amazing work with women. She is so inspirational. And I actually, Katerina, I see so much potential for you for sponsorship. And I mean, if we were in a live event right now, I would actually bring you up on the stage and we would do this powerful exercise. This is one of the things we're doing at the Global Influence Summit, but where we would do this powerful exercise with the whole group, generating ideas on who would be the perfect fit sponsor. I just did this at an event in Edmonton a couple of weeks ago, and the person who was receiving the ideas and the input became so emotional, and her words to the group after thank you were, "Oh, I feel like my dream is possible now." And that's the power of bringing people together to brainstorm. Um, Joe Dibley says it would raise more funds for donations. Absolutely. I know, Joe, that you do amazing work in supporting charities at every single event that you host. And Rocky's saying, I provide, oh, Rocky, cool. I don't know if you two know each other, but that's a cool connect. Rocky's also providing women's workshops as well. So again, this is another area to get your credibility out. Sponsorship would help you get your message out there. It gives you a voice, free workshop space. It reduces stress. That's a really interesting point, Terry. Thank you for raising that. It would reduce stress around the cost of the event. Absolutely. We could do more presentations, save more lives, and help others from hurt. We could reach more people. Beautiful. Joelle, I love the work you're doing with Sadie. Joelle has an amazing book. You can write that in the chat box. But you're absolutely right. It can actually impact the world in that much of a degree. So sponsorship is important. And I want you to think about, as you're preparing to go to the next step of sponsorship that we are going to talk about now, is to keep that in the back of your mind. Not only are you helping sponsors, but together you and the sponsor can achieve some of the differences that all of you just identified right there on the chat box. So the next part, we've talked a little bit about what is sponsorship, how can it help our business, what do I need sponsored, or what would be cool to have sponsored. You heard some of the things I've had sponsored. Let me share another example of what's possible. Last year, just about a year ago, this time, we were returning from our Million Acts of Kindness tour, probably one of the most exciting moments of my life. It was a 14,000 kilometer. I don't know how to do the math to convert that to miles, but it's a lot. I think it was 10,000 miles, 14,000 kilometers. We did a kindness tour right across North America. It was a speaking and a book tour, and really a kindness tour, being able to do kindness activities at all the stops we did. Now, our 32-foot motorhome was sponsored by an amazing company, Fraser Way RV, who has locations all across Canada. And we had all of the sponsors on the vehicle wrap. So the kindness mobile was decked out. And what was so cool is that we had sponsors playing so many different roles on this 6-week kindness tour. We had sponsors actually sponsoring me to speak at schools and businesses. So they were paying my speaking fee to support the tour and also to get my message into different schools and workplaces. We had books being sponsored by a number of different companies, from banks to financial advisors, from real estate agents to hairstylists, local businesses, and even members of the public sponsoring books to go into programs. We had event space sponsored. Even our hotel rooms for our team, because they didn't sleep in the RV with my husband and Toby and I. They were crashed out in the swanky, these really gorgeous, wonderful hotels. We were shivering in the RV, and it was so much fun because they were having the space they needed. And of course, those hotel rooms were comped by our sponsors. We also had travel and food sponsored, media, and the list goes on. When I look back on that now, 1 year later, I think the best part of all of it was that it created a community around this tour. So it wasn't me out there doing the Million Acts of Kindness tour. It was us, myself, Chris, and Toby, along with these incredible sponsors and their staff. This is important to know. Many businesses, while sponsorship is all about marketing, and they really want to advance their marketing relationships, many businesses right now are seeing the value of having their employees engage in projects that they support. And that was so true with the Million Acts of Kindness Tour. Petland Canada, another one of our amazing sponsors, and Fraser Way RV, we were able to actually do events at their locations, which was really exciting because it brought in the staff into the events. And from a corporate perspective, employee engagement is really where it's at right now. People want to feel connected to the community. There is so much value. So I want you to offer, write down on the next page of that, worksheet, some ideas that you have around what you could offer to sponsors. Even a better way to look at that is, what would a sponsor benefit? How would a sponsor benefit by supporting your project, your tour, your launch, your retreat, your event, your new product, your webinar series, your podcast, your blog, your radio show? How would a sponsor benefit from supporting you? I'll give you a moment to write some thoughts down and then put them in the chat box if you want. I'll type them up and then I'll add some. So how would a sponsor benefit by supporting you? What would make them want to say, yes, Becky, yes, Joe, absolutely, Joelle, Barbara, I am in. Rocky, you bet, I want to support your project. What would make a sponsor say that? So we've got Joe saying exposure, mission and mandate, absolutely. Here's some things to think about. If you were a speaker, if you were ever on media, if you ever attend events as an exhibitor or a speaker or an attendee, if you have a blog, if you have social media, those are all things that could be of tremendous value to a sponsor. Karen says seen as innovative. Barbara says spread the news for their name, for them and their name recognition. Absolutely. Yes, Rocky's talking about the value of workplace culture, upgrading that big time, new success mindsets. Absolutely. So here's some of the reasons that sponsors have told me that they supported our projects. The one that I love is that one of our sponsors said, Charmaine, I don't know how we're going to sponsor you. I don't know what it's going to look like at the end. We're just getting to know each other now, but I can tell you this. We are a yes. I don't know what it's going to look like, but we are a yes because you believe so strongly in what you're trying to achieve. And how could we not want to be involved in this level of passion? So the passion that you bring to your projects, the commitment that you bring to the people that you serve is a big reason that sponsors want to say yes. So, and yeah, absolutely, Joe, good corporate citizenship and responsibility. It's another big reason. Your projects help them build goodwill in the community. So I want to talk about a couple of mistakes that people make all the time and that I don't want you to make. So pen and paper, write these down. These are biggies. Number one is many times people do the ask, they make the request before the relationship. That's backwards. So we have to have the relationship before the ask. This is very, very important. When you can build a relationship with a sponsor and allow the ask to happen at the right time, you stand a far better chance of building a sponsorship relationship and being able to ask for funds. Another mistake that people make is not leaving enough time. Not leaving enough time to give the sponsor time to go through all their channels of decision making. And big sponsors, like big brands, they are usually working a year out. So they're making decisions right now for maybe 2018. So be aware, the larger the sponsor, the more time you need. Here's another mistake sponsors tell me all the time. Stop using gold, silver, and bronze. Sponsors do not like to be sent a proposal that they've not requested. In fact, one of my mentors, Brent Barutis, who wrote a fantastic book called Reality Check, him and his team mentored me around sponsorship a few years ago in some areas that I was needing more guidance on. Fantastic group. And I remember Brent saying to me that you don't submit proposals until it really is clear that it's already a yes. This hit me like, whoa! This was so important to hear, because often what happens is people submit proposals and they don't even really know what the sponsor wants and needs. They don't understand the sponsor's marketing goals, the target audience, what they're trying to achieve through sponsorship dollars. And if you were to send a sponsorship proposal without understanding that, it's probably not going to address any of what's important to them. And so I love what Brent said about that he doesn't submit proposals until it's pretty much a yes. What we see a lot of right now with nonprofit groups, entrepreneurs, speakers, authors, trainers, coaches, is they write a letter saying how awesome their project is or how amazing their event is going to be, and that there's opportunities for sponsorship. Well, let's just think for a moment if we were to receive that letter. We've never heard of this person, don't know the event. Maybe they didn't even put our name on the letter. And they've talked about how awesome the event is or the project is, and that they want some money from us. They want to be involved with us as a sponsor. What would you normally do with that kind of a letter? So let's just hear from you on the chat box. You've received a letter from a stranger telling you how amazing their project is and why you should be a part of it as a sponsor. They didn't actually use your name because they don't know who you are. You've received the letter, you've read it or not. What do you do with it? That says it like it is, Virginia. Virginia says trash it. If it's in the email, I see people say delete it, blow it off, throw it out. Absolutely. That's what sponsors do all day long when people don't know how to do sponsorship. That's why I'm talking about this at today's webinar, and why I'm so grateful to the Global Influence Summit for inviting me to talk about sponsorship today and also in February in Florida. Because if we learn to not make the mistakes that I have made and have learned from, and that I now teach clients, if we learn to not make those mistakes, what we do is we stand out. We stand out to those sponsors, and they think to themselves, wow, they get it. They understand that this is a marketing relationship. They're taking time to get to know me and my brand. They're interested, genuinely interested in what our goals are, who we're trying to reach, what hasn't worked well, what we could do together. So these are some of the significant pieces of understanding sponsorship. So let me just recap what we've covered so far before we go into the next part. We've talked about what sponsorship is, the types of sponsorship that is available. We've talked about why a sponsor would want to sponsor you, what you have to offer a sponsor. The next piece I want to talk to you about is your influence. A lot of you mentioned on the chat box that you bring a sponsor your social media list, your following, the people you're in relationship with, and that's absolutely true. There is a handout that I'm going to send to all of you. If you want it, what you can do is in the chat box, just type send me the handout. I already have your email. I'm just going to send this to people who want it so that you're not getting all kinds of emails from me afterwards. But if you need the handout and you haven't ever received this from me before, it's called the Vital Statistics Handout. This is where you're going to track all of your reach and influence. And I know some of you on the call today received this at a workshop from me in past, but if you need it, put in the chat box, send it to me. What I want you to do from now on, this Friday, well, maybe you'll change the dates because of the holiday season, but typically every Friday in our office is Vital Statistics Friday. We spend time assessing our reach on every social media platform, from LinkedIn to YouTube to Facebook and everything in between that we're on. And I'm actually only on about 5 social platforms, so you know. And then we track how many people have come to our events that month, how many people on our list, how many clients we serve, how many books we sold. We track all of our numbers. And the reason why is at any given time, you could find yourself in a conversation with a sponsor. I will tell you right now, I was just at an event and I have built relationships with 2 sponsors from being a speaker at an event. Relationships are everything, and you are going to meet people at every point of your day by phone, on email, social media, and at events that could be a potential partner or sponsor for you, or that maybe know somebody who is. So I really want you to be thinking about your relationships differently. And when you go through this exercise, I would like you to spend about an hour going through this Vital Statistics worksheet. because I think when you go through this, this will transform you. You're going to stand up and happy dance. And the reason why is because I'm looking at the names of people that I know that are on today's webinar, and I can guarantee you I will put money down on it that many of you are well beyond 1 million reach in your social media and email and other types of influence that you're involved in. 1 million. Many of you are reaching more than 1 million people, and you have no idea that you have that much value to a sponsor just through one thing, through your influence. One of my favorite speakers on influence, if you have not heard Teresa DeGrobois speak on influence, you have to hear her talk about this, because she's an expert at knowing the rules that you cannot break when you're building influence. Building relationships with sponsors is about influence building. And Teresa's going to be talking about that in February at the Global Influence Summit. And Joseph Ranseth is exquisite at talking about how to turn your message into a movement. This is a really cool concept. I can't wait to see what Joseph's going to talk about in Florida in February on this topic, because when Joseph talks about taking your message and turning it into a movement, that's part of what we're doing in sponsorship. We're taking the message of our event, our book, our project, and looking at how we can bring more people in, how we can create a tribe or a community around that message. The sponsor's looking for the same thing. And so together you are building this tribe, this community. Let me give you an example of this. On our Million Acts of Kindness tour, here we are driving across North America, and TELUS, who is a telecommunications company, my cell phone provider in Canada that I've worked with, I've been a client, I guess you could say, for 21 or 22 years now. And they became a sponsor for us on our Million Acts of Kindness tour, which was super, super cool. And I remember the first day that they tweeted out something about our tour. They actually created an icon. Now, for those of you who know who TELUS is, they have these little animal icons that mean different things in their brand. They created an icon one day for Toby. And when I saw that come through on Twitter, I kept looking at it, and I kept showing people, and I think I even took a screenshot of it because I was so excited just that they had done that. But what was really interesting was my husband noticed how many people then saw that tweet, that one tweet. That was just one of many tweets. And what TELUS did is they were able to bring our mission about kindness to their audience. And their audience started to engage with us. And that's where I talk about what Dr. Sean Duperrin calls the cycle of reciprocity. So we have to know our reach and influence so that if that topic comes up in conversation with a sponsor, we're prepared to answer that. So if a sponsor was to say to you, Joe, I know you're on media all the time, because Joe Dibley is on media all the time. They might say, Joe, what's your reach on media? How many people have experienced you and your book and your message on media? Joe will know that because she's going to be keeping track of all of her media, or is already doing that, of all of her media on one of our tracking spreadsheets. This is what we do with clients. We help set this up so that they have all the tools and systems in place to support them. And it's also something that your team, if you have a team, can do for you. But Joe would be able to say, oh, it's this many million. And it could just be brought up in conversation. So knowing your metrics. And the next part of this whole sponsorship conversation is to start figuring out what sponsors would be a good fit for you, because there's so many sponsors that would be a good fit. So the first place you start is very close to you, locally. I want you all, when you get off the webinar, sometime in the next 72 hours, just to spend a short amount of time to think about who you do business with right now and who you're connected to in your community. Maybe there's a coffee shop that you love to go to, or your hairstylist, or maybe there's a clothing store or a gym that you visit frequently. If you can write each and every one of these down, and keep that paper handy. Don't file it. Keep it handy on your desk or somewhere where you're going to see it, your counter, and keep track of that and keep updating it, because I think what you'll notice will happen is that you will be very surprised how many potential prospects, how many potential sponsors in kind or cash are right in your own neighborhood. The example I love to share is years ago when I first started learning about sponsorship. So this is back in 2010 or 2009 when we were getting ready to do our launch of On Toby's Terms, and I didn't have a printing sponsor, and I hadn't yet asked my current printer to be in a different relationship with me. But I was talking to a friend of mine, Al Head, who owns a company called Safety Ahead. It's a safety training company. And I was talking to him about all these printing and photocopying needs that I was going to have as a result of our book launch and our book tour. And Al came on as my printing and copying partner. Now, I would have never thought to have asked a colleague or a friend, and he had an amazing printer and copier that he was able to do this for us. So some of the people that you need to engage on your sponsorship team are the people that you're already in a relationship with and that you know deeply. Here's what I've learned is that people want to help you. But if we don't put out the ask, if we don't tell them or ask them how they could help me, how they could help you, that level of help never happens. That's what I know for sure. So it's all about relationships. Know that everywhere you go, start thinking about relationships differently. When you're at events, go and talk to the vendors. Talk to those trade show exhibitors. Talk to the people that you're eating lunch with. These are where I have formed so many sponsorship relationships. And next time you go to a business networking meeting, be thinking about how could myself and the person sitting next to me perhaps collaborate and work together on a different level. So you've got some homework. And I really want to make sure that you're all going to do the homework. So I'm going to type it up and send that out to you so everyone's clear on the homework. But really, to spend time thinking about what you need, what you have to offer a sponsor, who would be some perfect sponsors that you would want to start learning about and getting ready to have the phone call with, which was what we call the discovery call. How do you set up that meeting? And then the other piece of homework is the vital statistics, which is so critical. Now, the next part, which probably seems logical, is I have to figure out, I've done all my prep work. Now I've listed my dream sponsors, and I need to figure out how the heck do I get a conversation going with them? The first step is to actually spend a lot of time researching that sponsor's website. Read their press releases, watch their videos, pay attention to the wording they use. Look at what they've sponsored in past. Look to see on the website if they talk about who is responsible for sponsorship or community investment or public relations. Those are often terms that are used interchangeably. If not, it often falls under marketing. To really start to get a handle on who this company is, what they value, what they support, what's the message they're trying to convey, who is their audience. And then the next part is getting ready for a discovery call. And that is a whole other conversation. That's a couple of hours of a webinar in itself. And I'm going to be talking about that. I'll also be talking about that in detail at the Global Influence Summit. And I decided that we're going to do something super cool at the Global Influence Summit in February. We're actually going to do some mock calls with sponsors. So where I will actually get on the phone and call up some sponsors to do a discovery call so you can see and hear it, hear and see the type of questions that we ask sponsors when we're in those early stages of building a relationship. So some of you haven't heard about the Global Influence Summit. So let me share with you what the Global Influence Summit is about, because it is really a life-changing event. Some of you actually on the webinar today, I believe, or at least that registered, were at last year's Global Influence Summit, which was in California last year. This year we are in Florida. So let me share with you a little bit about that, and then I'm going to offer one more tip and a special gift for you all at the very end. We're winding down here on the content. So the Global Influence Summit is February 8th, 9th, and 10th in sunny Florida. So for those of you that are in Canada where it's cold and snowy, it's a great place to be. Or in Vancouver when it's raining all the time, you can come to sun and surf. Now, the Global Influence Summit, we have an amazing lineup of speakers who are going to be providing you with the skill sets and the mindsets to be able to advance your business. And what they're teaching is very much going to help you with sponsorship. Harrison Klein, who is my favorite speaker on mindset, he is an expert on mindset and how we change the messages in our brain to set us up for success. That's a very important conversation for sponsorship, because one of the things I see happen all the time is people go into their head when they're on a conversation with a sponsor or sitting next to someone and they're trying to find out more about the business. They often go into their head and your energy changes. You've seen it. We've all been there. Your energy changes. And then what happens is we start to lose that relationship with the sponsorship. So what we'll be talking about at the Global Influence is mindset and the skills that you need to be able to take your business to the next level. We've got Teresa de Grosbois and Joseph Ranseth, who will be talking about influence and turning your message into a movement. Imagine how exciting that would be with your next book or tour or project, your next event, to be able to have a whole tribe that's supporting what you're doing. It's so powerful. Some of the other things that people will be learning at the Global Influence Summit is business building skills. We've got the incredible Bob Burg. I don't know if you've read the book, The Go-Giver, but I've read it now 3 times. I love that book, The Go-Giver. Bob Burg will be joining us. And we also have Colin Sprake, who will be there. Lots of great speakers with the goal of really helping you break through some of the barriers that you might be facing in business and learning how to up-level your business for success. Right now, it is a critical time because there's the registration is actually $597. However, it's early bird time, and I love early bird time because you can get in at $297. You might be seeing on the screen right now the website link. But if you're not, if you're listening by cell phone or some other way, the website is globalinfluencesummit.com. globalinfluencesummit.com. So this, I believe, is going to be, I know actually, not I believe, I know that this event is going to transport people into a new place in their business. It's going to transform businesses. And people are going to be learning the skills that's not only necessary for sponsorship and building influence, but to build their program and their business for a long period of time, to think beyond tomorrow, next week, or next year, to really map it out. One of the other cool features that we've added to this year is a lot more networking and masterminding opportunities and activities throughout the event. And I'm really excited about that, because what we saw happen last year is these powerful relationships that happened over coffee and over dinner, even in the pool. And these folks have built these collaborations that 1 year later are still serving them really well. And that's what we're creating for the Global Influence Summit 2017. So I really hope that you'll be joining us in Florida February 8th, 9th, and 10th. And now's the time to take advantage of the early bird, because it's $297 instead of $597. And that's until January 15th. Now, just before we close, I wanted to offer you one more juicy tip. And this is a bit of homework for you too. What I would like you to do is, for our next conversation, to start getting prepared for the discovery call. So what you'll do for the homework is to write down all the questions that you would want to ask a sponsor. All the questions that you would want to ask a sponsor. That's the homework. Because when you can start to think about sponsorship in that way, you will have the tools that you need for that next conversation. You might be sitting on the plane and the person that you need in your business is right there. They're on a plane with you for 4 hours. They can't escape. And you're going to have all these questions already created in your head that you've practiced and that come out so naturally and authentically for you to be able to have a powerful conversation with them. I want to thank the Global Influence Summit for hosting today's webinar, and for my partners, Joseph Ranseth and Teresa de Grosbois, the co-hosts of the Global Influence Summit. We're excited to see you there in Florida. And to all of you who joined us today, you've taken the first step towards the world of sponsorship, being able to transform and change your business through collaboration and sponsorship. I'm so grateful you joined. I'm Charmaine Hammond. We'll see you later. See you next time.